more trade talks. I know you guys love the trade talk, right? It's what gets everyone hot and bothered, right? The trade speculation. And then once trade deadline comes, everyone's pissed off because everything we talk about, nothing happens. So there's a few names I want to talk about. One, Tasia and I might have a bone to pick with our guy Lance here, is Calais Campbell. So this is a guy, we talk about realistic deals and things that could happen. I know people always want a prime guy to trade for. And that just isn't going to happen unless you want to trade, primo draft picks, draft value. And Calais Campbell's a guy we're talking about because the other day we were talking about Christian Wilkins, and obviously I think Christian Wilkins, it would be a great signing. I know there's the locker room stuff, which we really know, no confirmed reports about what happened in the locker room. Just rumors of him, kissing guys on the head or whatever. Rumors, right? We don't want to. No one ever confirmed it. Schefter never wanted to put his name next to it. Neither did Rappaport. Nobody wanted to say anything. They wanted to give you a little bit, but not actually confirm anything, which is what I still think is odd. But we brought up Calais Campbell as a possible guy, right? He's an older dude, right? 39 years old. Probably one of his last years. He ended up signing with a team that ended up drafting him, and what a lot of people think is going to be his final year in the league. But if you look at his stats, he's playing pretty well. He's a guy who plays defensive tackle and defensive end. And it's also a guy, because of his age, because of his situation, I think Arizona wouldn't want a lot for him. It'd be more like, hey, this is your last year. We ain't going anywhere. Oh, hey, we'll send you to AFC to Kansas City for a run, for a final tour to get a Super Bowl. And he hasn't played in the Super Bowl since his rookie season, that first year with the Arizona, which I think is crazy. That the Arizona Pittsburgh, that was his rookie season. That's nuts. So you tweeted this, and I'm gonna get it up here. So you said, no, the Chiefs should not trade for 39-year-old Calais Campbell. So Mike, and I've seen this, when Tage and I talked about the other day, we had a lot of people saying, no, we don't want a 40-year-old guy on our team. It's like, okay, well, first off, he's playing well. He's not playing like a 40-year-old guy. But also, too, any trade we make at this point, this isn't for a long-term deal. It's for 8 games, and it's for a guy who's going to give us some rotational minutes and snaps, during a season as we get to the Super Bowl. Because after this, it's like the Terrell Suggs. It's like a guy that we picked up at the end of the season. It's like a Carlos Dunlap kind of a deal here. It's one and done, right? If you want to get a Calais Campbell jersey, get it, because that'll be the only time you're going to have a chance to get it. So my question to you is, why does age get brought up when we're talking about Calais Campbell when it is a guy we're only trading a possible seventh round conditional pick for?
I mean, I don't want to dismiss the question, but I do think that the age is in a way kind of self-explanatory, just because of the fact that it's like when we take a step back and we ask ourselves, what are we trading? What do we want the Chiefs to trade for? Like, when we're looking at intents, like, what is the goal? You want to get a guy that can be a difference maker. I mean, I'd imagine that's at least. Yeah, obviously the depth is the realistic aspect of it all, but we want to get a guy that's going to be somebody who can make a real difference. Like we saw Melvin Ingram come into Kansas City and make a real difference. He became a good dude for this team. But Melvin Ingram was only about 32, 33 years old when he was in Kansas City, so he wasn't in his prime anymore, but he was still on the outskirts of it. Calais Campbell's in the other county from his prime, and I'm not dissing Calais. I love Calais Campbell. I've literally grown up watching Calais Campbell play football. This dude is an absolute freak. To do what he's doing at this age, it's nothing short of amazing to see. So I pay nothing but homage and respect to what he's been able to do for as long as he's been able to do it. But to the point I make about Melvin Ingram, unless I'm mistaken, didn't the Chiefs sign him? Didn't they just sign Melvin Ingram? He was a free agent. Terrell Suggs, unless I was mistaken, was a free agent. I think Arizona, whoever it was, released him or whatever it was. I'm pretty sure that those guys were just guys the Chiefs just picked up. So I say this. Didn't
we trade for? Didn't Pittsburgh trade him to us? Wasn't a Pittsburgh?
Was it Melvin Ingram?
Yeah, didn't Pittsburgh trade him to us?
That's a good question. Man, I'd have to look that up. I thought I could have swore he was a free agent. But maybe I'm wrong.
Okay, no, I think he was cut by Pittsburgh before we picked him up.
Yeah. Because I don't remember them actually giving up anything to get him. The ultimate point.
Ingram was traded to the Chiefs November 2nd, 2021, in exchange for a 6th-round pick.
6th-round pick, okay, and that makes a little bit more sense, like I said, because of the age situation. If Calais Campbell was a free agent, dude, I would be 100% on board with you. But maybe I'm wrong for saying this, and maybe you guys are just in the right on this, and I'm just not seeing it yet. But I value these late round picks in Kansas City. Is that weird to say? Because Brett Veach is so good at finding guys late in the draft. And I'm not saying that Calais Campbell wouldn't be a good guy here in Kansas City. I think he would be fine. But I don't know if he's enough of a difference maker at his age to sacrifice the potential of the Chiefs finding that next cornerback in the 5th or 6th round. Maybe it would probably be 6th or 7th round they'd have to give up for Calais. But they found Isaiah Pacheco and Brashard Smith in the 7th round. Like, I just have a different value on picks than I did before the Veach era, and maybe I'm holding on to it too tightly. Maybe I'm, having that trust issue of sacrificing those picks because I just covered them so much because how good Brett Veach is on day 3. I just don't know if Calais Campbell will be enough of a difference maker to justify that type of trade. Like I said, if he was a free agent, sign him yesterday. Go and get Calais Campbell because that's only a bonus. You don't have to pay him anything. You obviously don't have to give him any draft capital to get him. I just looking at and saying that out loud, trading for a 39-year-old, even though he's effective, to be fair, over the last 3 seasons, he's been playing in warmer climates, domes, things of that nature. I think that does kind of contribute to it because I don't think Tom Brady would have been as 45 years old still playing in New England. I think he would have probably had to have retired a little bit earlier than he did, but he played in Tampa Bay in a really bad division, warm climate, domes. I think that kind of saved his career. Same with Drew Brees playing in New Orleans all those years. Peyton Manning played a lot of his career in the dome in Indianapolis. I just think those kind of things prolong guys, especially a dude that has to play such a physical position like Calais does. I don't know if he's going to have that to be able to withstand a season-long type of thing. They have a long run in the postseason that I think the Chiefs inevitably will have. I just fear that they sign it and people get excited because it's a guy, it's a name we know, and he was 39. Damn, that gets starting to show. It's 20 degrees outside. It's January and he's nowhere to be seen. It's kind of like one of those things I can just see happening because to your point about like Uche, we were excited about that pick. Oh, he wasn't a fit and he just kind of disappeared. Oh, now he's playing really good football and another team. It's like it just feels like there's always like this disappointment that surrounds acquisitions like this, and I just feel like that would be the disappointment I would be experiencing. Maybe I'm jaded by it. I don't know, but I don't like the idea of trading for somebody that old, if that makes sense. Like I think that there's just a certain age you just don't trade for guys, and we know one thing about Brett Veach. He doesn't take investments on guys that are old. We know they don't pay guys that are beyond 28 years old unless they're like unicorn players like Travis Kelce or Patrick Mahomes or Chris Jones. I have a hard time believing he's going to trade for a guy that old. That's just my opinion, man.
I mean, look, right now, the thing I love about him, right, we talk about Uche. I mean, Uche just schematically just wasn't a fit. Calais Campbell would schematically be a fit in the system. He could play DN, he could play D tackle, and having a 6'8" giant next to Chris Jones would be unreal to have. And again, he's 39 years old. This is the end of the line for him, and he's still contributing at a high level. I don't have the PFF numbers and the metrics on here, but all I know is he has 3 sacks in the year, and that would be tied for our team lead right now. We're a half a sack behind Karlaftis. So like he's still pretty dang good for what he is at 39 years old. I do see the weather aspect, but again, I don't think he'd be an every down guy. And also, too, I mean, I agree. If it was up to me, I would say, screw all that. Don't trade for anything. Just go sign Christian Wilkins. He's a young buck right now. You can maybe have him for a year. Maybe you can sign up for 2 years, right? I mean, I don't know. I would love to have him because, I mean, just a year ago, he was a top 2 defensive prospect as a free agent. And Raiders paid him money because they lost out in the Chris Jones bidding war. We ended up winning that. But Calais Campbell would be probably my number 2 because I think it's the most realistic of the D linemen who would be traded right now because of his age, because of all those things. And again, I know you don't want to trade 6 or 7 round picks, but if I told you the same trade we made for Derek Nottie, a conditional 6th round pick, or a conditional 6th round pick for a 39-year-old in Calais Campbell, I mean, I'd hope you'd say take that 6th round conditional pick and send it over to Arizona for a Calais Campbell instead of Derek Nottie, because we did trade a back for a guy who we let go because he wasn't good, and I mean by a lot of metrics, by the PFF metrics, by all metrics, by the eye test, Derek Nottie isn't even worth a 6th round conditional pick that we traded for to bring him back. Yeah, I just think Calais Campbell's got a lot more in the tank as a 39-year-old. Because honestly, the way he's playing, I don't know if it is going to be his last year. He could play for 2 or 3 more years. I mean, you don't see that from defensive tackles, defensive linemen like him. But man, he's a guy that might go down in history. People won't like. I know he won't be up there as far as some of the best of all time, but longevity-wise, man, he's been a producer all throughout his career, and almost 40 years old playing the position he's playing. It's kind of nuts.
Yeah, no, and you're right, man. In a hindsight aspect, Yes, I would if I had to choose right now. If somebody presented to me and said, "All right, man, you make this trade for Calais Campbell or Derek Nottie," yes, I would probably make the trade for Calais Campbell because Derek Nottie has not been good since he's been back to Kansas City. He wasn't good before he got back to Kansas City. So I'm with you on that. And just to make the record straight, because I know we've talked in our own group chats, you have convinced me on the Christian Wilkins acquisition. If the Chiefs can make that, I think they absolutely should. The only hesitation I have is the obvious. I think the Chiefs would have to have a detailed understanding of what's taken place. I mean, they would need like the actual, okay, what exactly happened? What was he doing? Because that is going to matter when you're coming into a championship locker room. When you're coming into a place that isn't just, hey, we're all professionals and this is our job. Welcome to the team. It's, hey, we're here to win Super Bowls. We need to make sure this guy isn't going to be doing essays around here. Like, I'm being serious. I'm just going to say it. Like, we don't need this guy harassing people in a very weird manner. You know what I mean? Like, that's going to have to be something that's going to have to be addressed if that is a scenario the Chiefs would entertain. And I'm going to be real with you. If they're okay with it, they better do it, because that's a move that makes total sense. Because like you just said, he's still young as hell. He won't cost them anything because the Raiders will be paying that. And that's always awesome because you're making the Raiders pay for a player that's playing for you, basically. And he would give them somebody that could be a legitimate difference maker. I know he had the foot or ankle injury, but according to reports, that's all healing up. And he's right around the time now where he'd be healed up and ready to play. If he's in football shape and he's still on go mode to play real football and be a difference maker, that needs to happen here in Kansas City. I was going to save this take for my show on Saturday, but I'm here with you, bro. Screw it. Let's talk about it. I'm all for it, dude. Like, that is the one that I actually am kind of excited about. I don't know, like I said, if the Chiefs are into him or not, but if they're kicking the tires or at least inquiring of him, get the story, make sure it isn't horrible to where you're like, I don't want to touch that guy, literally. And if it's okay, if things are not too weird and you think you can work through it, sign that paper, because that needs to happen, dude. That's the one guy out there that would be a legitimate difference maker. And like we just said, we wouldn't have to trade. The Chiefs wouldn't have to trade for him. That's the most ideal scenario imaginable for the Chiefs.
Yeah, and again, you're not giving up any assets for him, right? He's a free agent right now, and he's a young guy who just the last year was getting paid top 2, top 3 defensive tackle money. He was dealing with a Jones fracture, which there was kind of a point of contention this summer. Obviously, the kind of insinuations that he did some weird stuff in the locker room. But on top of that, he didn't want to get a second surgery that the Raiders wanted him to. So he said, no, I'm doing rehab my own way. And so between that and then the reports of this whole sexual stuff that, it has not been verified or confirmed by anybody. It's just like stuff that like reporters have said subtly. But again, if the Kansas City Chiefs are interested in you, right? There's two things here. This guy's only 29, right? So he's got a lot. He's got another contract in him if he wants it. And if he is, and by all reports I've seen, it would be by mid-season he would have been ready to play. So we're coming up on mid-season right now. And if the Chiefs contact you and they say, "Hey, like, we want you to come and play with us," this is your last chance. Because if you come to Kansas City, a team that we know the stories of Andy Reid. Andy Reid's given many guys second chances. Kareem Hunt being the latest of them. But look at his career. He's given plenty of guys second chances. If you come to Kansas City and you can't act right, and I've seen Cordell Robinson saying disruption in the locker room, messing up the mojo is crazy. If he comes to this locker room, it's already established. We already know who the top dogs are. When you come in that locker room, you know who the dudes are. You act accordingly. If you can't act accordingly, then you're gone, and you're probably done, because teams will say, like the Jaguars, the Colts will say, well, if he couldn't hack it in Kansas City, then like maybe he isn't for us, because the Chiefs weren't going to utilize him. Then no way. So this is your last opportunity. So I do think there's at least for a 1-year deal, right? Play with us for the half season, look good next to Chris Jones, and then hey, maybe you go get a contract elsewhere. Kind of like the Ogba situation, right? We brought him in, he looked great, he got paid right afterwards. So like Wilkins is my number one. Obviously, if all these stories are fine and everything checks out, you're not paying much for him, and you're not giving up any assets for him. And he gets to play for the Raiders, play against the Raiders. And that's also another thing, too. We're seeing all the dumpster fire with the Raiders right now. Maybe he saw the writing on the wall. It's like, you know what? I'm not doing anything you guys tell me. I want out of here. So, like, they cut him, Yeah, they get cut. Then you hear these reports being released after he says, no, I don't want to do your follow-up surgery. I want to do my own thing. And then you hear these reports. You didn't hear those reports before that. It also happens at around the same time they cut him. So I do think there's a lot of a miss there. No report has gone on record to say what it was. That also kind of makes it like, okay, are you just leaking like a subtle like report, or are you actually coming out and saying something? Because no one confirmed actually what happened in that locker room. And again, Brett Veach will do his due diligence on there. To quote John Dorsey, he's going to do his due diligence, and we'll see what happens with that. But I think Christian Wilkins is like he's my number one guy because you're not trading any assets for him, and you can potentially get a guy next to Chris Jones for maybe 1 or 2 years on a solid deal because he got paid good money with the Raiders. So.
Yeah, and even if there's a little bit of a weirdness to Christian Wilkins, which I think is just a standard, or that's in stock when it comes to him. That's just how he is. He's probably got a little oddity to him. I don't know if you guys remember, but in 2023, the Chiefs had a guy by the name of Kadropius Toney who had paper plates for hands and was one of the weirdest human beings on IG. Literally trying to blame AI for speaking for him to fighting Giants fans through his DMs. The Chiefs still won a Super Bowl with that guy in their locker room. So that dude was a rather odd character. The Chiefs have had some odd characters throughout the years. I think they can handle it. Like I said, as long as it isn't something that you can't just overlook. And I think we're all adults here. I think we know what I'm talking about here. As long as it's something they can work through, I think the Chiefs would make that move, because I guarantee you they've heard about concerns of other guys before they still took a chance on. And I just named one. It didn't work out here, and it was actually really bad. He was a healthy scratch in the Super Bowl, and they still won the Super Bowl that year. So I don't think that anything that minor would be something that would mess things up in the locker room. This locker room has a lot of veterans in it that have won together. I think that those guys are strong enough of a nucleus to oversee some of the oddities of a certain individual to make it work. So as long as, like I said, as long as it ain't something that we can't discuss openly, then yeah, I think they can make that work with Christian Wilkins.
100%. I'm totally with you on that. But before we move on to the next guy, Calais Campbell. Did I convince you that we could trade a 7th round or 6th round pick for a guy like that because his fit would work and he would be great for a stretch run for the Super Bowl? Or are you still awful?
Because Marcus, because I love you so much, and because you make valid points, and I love Tasia as well. You guys are my best friends I've never actually met in person. I'm gonna say F it. Let's do it, man. I'm open-minded to the idea of bringing a senior citizen here for a 7th round pick. And seeing if his back doesn't give out on him by just lining up. I'm good with it. Let's do it, man. Let's ride.
Let's do it. Todd Toll-Free, DT, Calais Campbell would be the fit and ball out. I mean, yeah, he's playing well right now. And yeah, I don't think it would take a lot to get him. But again, and that's also too, like, he has to want to come to Kansas City, right? I mean, he ended up signing with Arizona, the same team that drafted him. Maybe it was just he wanted to end it with the team that started it with. I don't know. But if you had a chance to play for the Kansas City Chiefs, I don't see him turning that down. And
and to add to that, his former teammate Terrell Suggs, I know he would talk to him. Yo, Sizzle, what's good, man? Tell me about Kansas City. You know what I mean? And I'm sure Calais has relationships throughout the league. He probably knows Andy Reid really well because he's been in the league as long as Andy Reid has. So I'm sure he'll talk with him. Yeah, I'm sure there's interest because no offense to Arizona, but they're not winning a Super Bowl this year. No. And I think Calais Campbell, like you said, this is more than likely his final season. We'll see. He'll probably be playing longer than Patrick does. Who's to say that, he looks at this as that one true opportunity, man, that, a team that's not only a Super Bowl worthy team, but a team that might be interested in him. I mean, how many times is that going to happen to him?
Yeah, I mean, he isn't slowing down right now. So, I mean, it could be his last year, could not be. And if it is his last year, like Terrell Suggs, right? Terrell, how great was it just go to a team for 6 games and win a Super Bowl? He's like, oh, yeah, it's great. You should do it. You should do it, and then you can go retire in Arizona afterwards if you want to. Del Monte, has Campbell won a Super Bowl? No, he lost in the Super Bowl. Cardinals, Steelers, his rookie season. That's the only time he's been to a Super Bowl, so no. Jeremy Gallagher, JD is off tonight. JD is with his nephew, Chad. Chad has got a procedure. So JD is off tonight. So send well wishes and love to JD and Chad. All right. So now we're going to go to the next guy, Quinnen Williams. So young guy, 27 years old, defensive tackle, would be awesome next to Chris Jones. Amazing. It would also be the guy to hopefully take over after Chris Jones does retire in a couple hopefully Chris Jones plays till as long as Calais Campbell does. But a guy who can actually, continue to graduate with Chris Jones, go to the next level, go to play in the race together. I would love Quinnen Williams. So Jets, another team like Jalen Phillips with the Dolphins. This is a team that's probably going to blow it up here soon. They're going to trade their pieces, get as many draft picks as possible, and kind of begin a new clean slate. So a beat reporter for the Jets released this yesterday. Connor Hughes said that according to sources, Quinnen Williams could be had for a second-round pick. Also, other names here. Jermaine Johnson could be had for a third-round pick. Will McDonald could be had for a third-round pick. Could be a second. And then Breece Hall, fifth-round pick. Well, not bad, actually. And then you have Quincy Williams, day 3 picks. But the Jets are indeed making outgoing calls regarding Jermaine Johnson. That could be another guy, too. But I want to stick to defensive tackle here. Quinnen Williams, second-round pick. I know you're huge on draft picks and assets, as am I. But second-round pick's pretty steep. But this is a lock of a guy who we know who he is. And his contract's actually not that bad. Quinnen Williams' contract. What do you make of this, bringing in Quinnen Williams for a second-round pick, Lance?
I wouldn't give up a second-round pick for Quinnen Williams. I would give up a first-round pick for Quinnen Williams.
Wow.
Quinnen Williams is one of the best interior linemen in this league, and it's not close. I mean, there's only maybe 2 or 3 guys that I could even say comfortably are even in his tier. The reason why Quinnen Williams doesn't get the respect that he deserves is because he plays for one of the worst, most embarrassing franchises in the NFL. But this guy, year in and year out, is a wrecker. And he is only 27 years old, just turned 27 years old. And you, in my opinion, a guy like that, especially for a team like Kansas City, you can't put a price tag on him. He is one of the more invaluable players in the league. Like, you can't put an adequate price tag on it. Like when Chris Jones's contract discussions were going on, you remember what I was saying. I'm like, I don't care what the Chiefs pay him. You pay him. Like, he is worth every penny you pay him. That's how I feel about Quinnen Williams. The only issue with that type of acquisition is not the draft capital, because like I told you, I would give up anything for Quinnen Williams. The issue is the money. I know you said his contract isn't terrible. You're right. It's not terrible, but it is still hefty, and it's going to be hefty for both sides no matter who the Jets were to trade him to, because if you look at his dead cap over the next 2 years, it's over $50 million combined. So the Jets would have to really consider eating a lot of that. So are they that hell-bent on giving up an elite 27-year-old defensive tackle and eating that kind of money? I mean, yeah, they could probably get a good haul. Like I said, that first, second-round pick easily. That's like a standing. That's like the floor here. And they probably get great offers, which probably takes the Chiefs realistically out of the running for Quinnen Williams, because they're going to be a team out there that'd be willing to give up a haul for him that would just outprice the Chiefs. But even if the Chiefs were to give them adequate, draft picks, knowing that the Chiefs have late picks in every round essentially, the Chiefs would have to finagle some serious money around, dude. And if you made this move, not to bring it back up, because I know I piss Chiefs fans off all the time, but I have to anyway, because it's a real conversation. You can kiss Trent McDuffie goodbye. Because if they make that move, there is 0% chance they're paying Trent McDuffie. Because Trent McDuffie's money starts over $100 million. So the Chiefs are not going to be able to pull that off while still paying Chris Jones, while paying George Karlaftis, while paying Nick Bolton, and probably extending either Brian Cook or Leo Chenal, because one of those two guys are a staple on this defense, and they don't have a veteran safety around. They've always had one of those two guys, either a Justin Reed or a Tyrann Mathieu, and I think they like what Brian Cook brings to the table. I think they love what Leo Chenal does. He's one of the biggest freaks in the league at linebacker, only 25 years old. So there's a lot of things you have to really consider here, man. So if you're asking me what I'd do, I'd tell the Chiefs, hey, Veach, go get him and figure out the money, because that's a dude that takes this defense from being really, really good to incredibly elite. So, yeah, I'm all for winning Super Bowls, and Quinnen Williams is a Super Bowl acquisition. So make it happen if you can. I don't think personally it's that realistic. I think it might be too rich for the Chiefs' blood. But if there's any chance or any scenario that the Chiefs can make that happen, this is the move you make.
I mean, look, this is a team that traded a first-round pick to get Orlando Brown Jr., right? So they have made splashes like that before, True. And Quinnen Williams, Orlando Brown Jr., two different things. It was a need for us at the time, and thankfully we did not re-sign him. But because we found our guy in the end. We found 2 guys in the end. But as far as Quinnen Williams, and I think this goes to our conversation earlier on in the show, we talked about Trey McDuffie and talking about the success in the cornerbacks. Because if you are going to, not sign Trey McDuffie and pay him, then that means you have to figure out the trenches and get some pass rush and get some, guys who can get to the quarterback. Because if you are going to have to take a step back in the DB room, and who's to say we don't take a step back in the DB room, right? Because Jalen Watson's been great. Noah Williams looks like a gem. That was one of Taja's guys who he loved all pre-draft process. And those are guys we found late, not first round picks. And you could also, in this upcoming draft, you could draft in the first round at cornerback if need be. But by trading for Quinnen Williams, you figure out your defensive line issues for a long time. And then, next year you have Quinnen Williams, you have Chris Jones, and then you have Omarr Norman-Lott. You actually have a rotation of solid defensive tackles for the first time in a long time. And also you have Gelati, who's all grit. George Karlaftis, all grit. Omenahu's probably gone after the season's over, but you can find edge rushers late in the draft. But you have guys who can get after the quarterback in the trenches. And finally, you can't double Chris Jones anymore because you have Quinnen Williams, the beast, next to him. So I would love it. I don't know if it's going to happen, but it'd be a big splash. And I saw that today, that second round pick he could be had for, because that team looks like it's about to implode. Well, it's imploding already, but they're about to blow it up.
Oh yeah. Chris Jones and Quinnen Williams together would be like the equivalent of the Brothers of Destruction, like Undertaker and Kane. Like that's not even fair. Could you imagine that type of talent in the interior presence of your defense? And what that would do is add the incentive for Chris Jones to want to play on the outside more, because he loves doing that. You got Quinnen in town, bruh. I mean, you're talking about Chris Jones is just picking and choosing where he gets to play on each down. So, yeah, dude, like I said, just to reemphasize, if there's a single percentage chance the Chiefs can make that move, that is the move, dude. Because we both know when you're building a defense, it starts with the interior. It starts with your front four. It starts with your front seven. It starts by getting those guys that can get adequate pressure on the quarterback. That's where it all starts, man. If you can get two juggernauts like that, although very expensive, it would be worth every single penny to have those guys to build around for the next couple of years in your interior front.
100%. And we got a question here. Steve Cash, what's the math on Williams? Let me pull it up here. I just pulled up from the website. All right. This is Quinnen Williams' numbers right as we speak right now. Whoops. There you go. So this is Quinnen Williams' contract as we speak.
Yep. It's a little over about $48 million in cap hits over the next 2 years. And then it looks like about roughly $50 million in dead cap. That's where the Jets kind of have to play a role in what they're willing to eat to move off of. And that's the question you have to ask. Does a team that is on the rebuild, are they wanting to move off an elite player still in his prime that's going to be that expensive for them? Are they willing to do that? If they are, then we're going to have a discussion. If not, then they're not making that move.
Yeah. I mean, again, it doesn't come around often where you can get a guy who is a dude for a second round pick, and you also have him under contract for a couple of years after this. But again, that's where you have to pick. You pick McDuffie or you pick in the trenches. It's got to be one or the other. You can't go. You can't lose in both areas. And I do think if they don't go with McDuffie, they are going to make sure to spend money in the trenches. I think it's going to be one or the other.
Yeah, to your point about the second round pick, I think if we know how negotiations go, that's what the Jets are saying right now. But I guarantee you, there's going to be about 15 teams that are saying, "Hey, we'll give you a second round pick," and they're like, "Okay, cool. So now we know there's these many teams that are willing to give this up." All right, well, now we're moving up. We need multiple. We need a second and a third. We need a second and a fourth. We need, they're going to want to see that deal get sweetened. And that's where I think the Chiefs might get maybe outplayed or outgassed, because there are going to be teams out there that have not only more picks to mess with, but probably earlier picks to mess with. And I think that's what the Jets are probably looking at if this is a trade they're actually looking to move forward with.
Yeah, and also, unless you never know. We've seen crazy things happen in sports, right? The Lakers didn't, or the Mavericks didn't ask around about Luka, and they just traded him.
That trade still doesn't make sense.
So we've seen crazy things happen in sports, right? Demonte Greenbean says opponents wouldn't want to come to Arrowhead for real. No, they wouldn't. Not with those two dudes in the middle. Woof.
Brothers of Destruction. I'm getting the nickname now, dude. I'm telling you.
I like that. You said Kane and Undertaker. I'll go a little more old school. Big John Studd and King Kong Bundy. Tag team duo. I mean, come on, there's big dudes there.
Well done.
So before we move on to the final guy, Christian Fulton, I just quickly want to ask you, since we're talking about guys in the trenches. A lot of people are saying everyone's talking about big names. A name that makes the most sense would be Khalen Saunders. I mean, he's riding pine in Jacksonville right now. He's not doing anything over there. I think he's been a healthy scratch. I don't think he's even played. What do you make of a Khalen Saunders? Do you think that's a realistic move? I think that of all the moves we're talking about tonight, I think that's probably the most realistic, is bringing back a guy who's already been here before, who has relationships with the team, knows the system. What do you make of Khalen Saunders?
I'm so glad you brought him up, because I was hoping that this was going to happen, because I literally have in my notes right here, go get Khalen Saunders from the Jaguars. He's only worth $1.7 million this year, which means that the Chiefs obviously wouldn't pay that, all of that. And he is riding pine. It's a very frustrating situation for him in Jacksonville. There's rumors speculating about it, but him not being a good teammate and things like that. But I've heard nothing but great things about that guy in his time in Kansas City. All the teammates still love the dude. When they were playing out there in Jacksonville, you saw several videos of him and old teammates hugging it up, having a good laugh. I mean, this dude he seems like an awesome guy. I don't know him personally, obviously, but he seems like an awesome guy. And I think he's a pretty damn good football player. I mean, I don't know why he's riding pine in Jacksonville. Maybe that's a scheme fit issue. I don't know, but that is probably the most realistic option of all these that we're talking about, with the plus side added to it, because I think he's still got some football left in him. He's not old. I think he's only 28 years old. I could be wrong about that, but I do believe he's around 28, 29 years old. And he's inexpensive. I mean, it wouldn't cost anything. I mean, if the Jags are really hell-bent on trading him as opposed to cutting him, give up a day 3 pick, because like I said, you're not even using him. There's no incentive there's no leverage here for the Jags. So, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And let's be real. The Chiefs like their guys. Like you just saw, Derek Nottie came back. We all know he wasn't a great player. He was just a depth piece at best, and he hasn't even been that. They've gotten McCole Hardman like 14 times. They just go and get their guys they like. They're comfortable with guys. They got Juju twice. Like they like their guys. When they're comfortable with dude, when he fits the role, when he fits the mold, and he's one of the dudes, eventually they probably make a reappearance, kind of like an old serial, like a series, like you always have these reoccurring characters that show up like once every couple seasons. That's Khalen Saunders. Like, it makes a lot of sense. So I could definitely see it happening. It's very realistic. And he'd be a plus-side player. I don't think he'd be some rim-rocking difference maker, but he'd be a good guy, good morale dude, and just a nice little fresh face to see back in Kansas City.
Yeah, it's another guy who can come back and get another ring to be a part of it. I think he was at the right carpet of the premiere for the No, it was a red carpet. It was during Super Bowl weekend. We talked about the three-peat, and he was talking about how it'd be awesome for the Chiefs to get the three-peat, because I can say I was a part of that. Like, so all these guys are still in the fabric of what we were doing in Arrowhead and in Kansas City. So like the team would love to have him back, and we obviously know Kelsey and his connection with Taylor. So like they would all love to have him back. And again, that honestly, if you're looking at bets, right, like what's the most likely guy to trade for? He's probably like a minus 200, where everybody else like plus something. Like he's probably the biggest favorite to come there, because it probably wouldn't cost us much of anything at all. And maybe the Chiefs are even hoping the Jags just cut him so they can just pick him up. So
yeah, that's ideal, because like I said, there's no leverage for the Jags. Like they can't demand anything other than like maybe a conditional 6th, conditional 7th for him.
Yeah, I would love that. I mean, honestly, it would be great to have depth. I don't think he's going to be a Quinnen Williams type of guy, but like, hey, it'll be a good depth piece and a good locker room guy that they have in the. All right, so last guy we're going to talk about, and this is more of an outgoing trade here, because this one doesn't make any sense. It's Christian Fulton, a guy that we spent pretty decent money on, probably one of the second highest paid guys we paid for in this offseason. 2-year deal. Worth about $20 million over 2 years, and he has been a healthy scratch the last few weeks. And again, does it come down to scheme fit? I don't know. But all I can say is I can go back to a tweet from Jason Anderson of 810, I believe. Because yesterday we made a move where we brought in Kevin Knowles, and Kevin Knowles is now on the 53-man roster. So yet again, it's another cornerback who's on, that's the move we make with ONL going to IR, is this guy going to another cornerback going into the active roster. It's like, that's interesting, because we have Christian Fulton, the guy who's not even playing. But this stood out to me a little bit here. It was Jason Anderson tweeted this. So this rep by Kevin Knowles, this is back in August. The key part is what Dave Merritt says. So back in August, Kevin Knowles is why I think he has a chance to make the team. Dave Merritt talked about knowing your job. He recognizes the adjustment, even alerts Christian Fulton. Fulton, a 5-year vet, and Knowles, an undrafted free agent, plus knowing what the route is from prep work. I take my chances with developing him over someone the Chiefs have been trying for the last 3 years to get to click. So the fact that Merritt right off the bat kind of says like the thing about, knowing your job and how, Christian Fulton, he's a 5-year vet, but like as far as, knowing your role and knowing how to play, I mean, again, he also was hurt a little bit. So it's interesting, this whole Christian Fulton thing. And now I'm seeing there's potentially he could be on the outgoing. Teams, or a lot of DB needy teams out there who are looking for a guy who could come in. I mean, even the Chargers are one of those teams who could win. The guy came from the Chargers last year. He had a pretty decent year last year for them, at least the first half of the season. But they are a team that needs a cornerback help. A lot of teams need DB help. We're amongst the teams that does not. We're actually pretty deep in that department, and that's before Najee Johnson comes back. That's before Noel Williams starting to get more reps over the last 2 weeks. So what do you make of this whole situation? And do you think there is a trade that can be had here that we could get him out of Kansas City for some draft capital that we can turn to some trade for somebody else, or just a player for player kind of thing? What do you think happens with this situation?
Yeah, when we came into the season, 8 of the 9 defensive backs on this Chiefs roster, were on rookie deals. And the one guy that wasn't was Christian Fulton. This is a guy that the Chiefs obviously were very high on. Got him from a divisional foe in the Chargers. He was a free agent, and they went and got him. And Brett Veach has never spent money at the cornerback position, ever, until this offseason, and it was Christian Fulton. So I was of the assumption this dude was going to be a real piece to this defense. Now, obviously he gets hurt. That's something you have to just kind of deal with and just, let him work his way back. And that's what I was been of the belief this whole time, that, yeah, he's just getting healthy, and, we'll see him at some point, because he's that veteran corner they spent real money on, and I just keep sitting here and waiting. And then, like you just said, we keep hearing that he's a healthy scratch. And that's when I started to have a real problem with this whole situation, because it now has to become a situation that we need some clarity on. We need to understand. And I know they don't see it that way, but as a fan, as a consumer of this team, I feel like we should have some clarity on this, because it doesn't really make a lot of sense. I mean, the dude has $23 million in dead cap money attached to this contract. So the Chiefs clearly have there's real financial investment in him. This is a guy that fits the Spags defense, so I don't think it's a scheme thing. I don't think it's a lack of being a fit. I think he actually is a fit. He fits the mold. He is that style of corner that Spags likes to have on his defenses. So it begs the question, what the hell is it? And the only thing I can really give it from a positive spin is, well, the Chiefs are really just loving what they're getting from Noel Williams. They're really liking what they're seeing from him. But my issue is, we're seeing Shamari Connor playing a lot of corner, and he's not their barbecue chicken half the time. I know he's been playing better of late, but he's gotten cooked a lot of times this season playing slot corner for whatever damn reason. He's more of a safety in my eyes. Noel Williams, up to last week, was only playing about 15, 20 snaps on average per game. I mean, shit, against the Jags, if I'm not mistaken, I think he only played 4 snaps total. So, it can't be Noel Williams. It can't be these other guys. So what in the hell is it, Marcus? I know I'm supposed to have an answer here, but I literally don't have one, because nothing about this is making any damn sense. If he's hurt, then we could just have peace about that, add a little solace to the situation and say, well, you know what? He's just not healthy. We live. It's football. That's what happens sometimes. They're saying he's healthy. He's not on the IR. What the hell is going on, dude? And it's the weirdest thing, because I'm out here in Kansas City, so I stay plugged into the local media. There's very few questions about it. Very few people ask anything about it. So it's almost like this unspoken situation that's going on here in Kansas City that either no one knows about or no one cares about. And I'm on the second. I'm definitely on the first side. I just feel like no one knows about it. Because you definitely have to care about this. Because what are we talking about right now with these last couple of weeks? How awesome Jalen Moore has been stepping in. That was their big investment at left tackle. Well, this is a dude that's gotten heavily invested in cornerback, so that has to be treated the same way, and it's not. There's not that same energy, both positively and negatively, to this, and I'm glad you brought it up on the show, because it needs to be addressed. It needs to be discussed. It needs to be understood, because there is nothing that's happening right now in my eyes and to my own understanding, and I've been asking people that are in the know, and everybody's kind of throws their hands up dude, I don't know. I've talked to reporters. I'm talking to people that are in the know, and they're like, dude, it doesn't make sense. So it feels like just one of those classical situations where the Chiefs aren't playing a player and you don't really understand why. That's literally what it feels like. It's like Leo Chanel last year wasn't getting nearly the snaps that guy should have been getting. He was an awesome player every time he got an opportunity, and he just was not getting those opportunities. Uche, you can talk about being a scheme fit, maybe you're right, but they still traded for that dude. So they clearly had a talk with Spags and said, hey, does this guy fit your defense or your opinion? There had to be some agreement there before they made the Uche trade. So I'm not understanding it, Marcus, and I don't know if we ever are going to, because right now it looks like he's not going to be a part of the plan moving forward.
It doesn't feel that way, and you're right, because I mean I watch these press conferences every week, and easily like, hey, it's not a weird thing to ask, like, hey, what's the guy we spent the second most amount of money on this past offseason, from Jalen Moore to him, what's the deal with Christian Fulton? Like, you can't. I mean, I'd love to hear that question at least once a week, just to hear what's going on with that. And Spags will give you more of an answer than Reed won't really say much, but like Spags will give you some kind of an answer. Dave Mayer might give you some kind of an answer. But yeah, it's weird. It's one of those things that's gone unsaid. Delmonte B. Greens, am I the only one that knows they hold players for different quarters of the season? Yeah, this wouldn't be that, man. This is a guy. This isn't a player they're load managing. This is a guy who's a young dude who they just paid money to. They're not holding him for anything. They're just not holding him out off the field for some reason. I don't know. And that's the thing. It's like schematic. The Josh Uche thing, that makes sense, right? Because at the end of the day, he really wasn't a fit. We've never really had guys who just speed rusher types. We don't really have those in the Spag era. And like that, that makes sense. You look back at it, but then this guy who does, who does fit the Spags mold as far as secondary wise, and he's not playing, and healthy scratches. It's weird. It's interesting. But yeah, I feel like that needs to be said, because he might be a guy on the way out, and that'd be one of the craziest things ever. A guy that we signed who never actually got to play meaningful snaps, gets traded before he ever actually got to play meaningful snaps in a season. Really odd.
Yeah, and it would make, like I said, it would make even less financial sense too, because like I said, the Chiefs have given this man real money. It would not be cheap to get rid of him, and I in my personal opinion, even though it doesn't feel good, like the vibes are off and it doesn't feel right, I still think the Chiefs need to make this work. I mean, at worst, it's something our guy Charles Goldman is saying. Maybe he's a guy they're just kind of just, hey, if someone gets hurt, then he'll play kind of situation. I don't like that. I personally don't, but there are worse scenarios. You could go and trade him, and then someone gets hurt, and then you don't have either. So I guess we'll just say, hey, you're the backup. You're Ryan Gosling, and Remember the Titans. Congratulations. Like, you're just the dude that gets thrown in last second. Don't get cooked. You know what I mean? It's like one of those deals. Yeah. I don't know, man. It's really like one of those throw your hands in the air, ask what the hell's going on to the clouds kind of thing, man, because it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like, we see injuries happen in the secondary wide receiver room. We've seen that happen with us. But to have a guy that we can rely on, I mean, I know it's not why we signed him, but to have a guy that we can go to in case, God forbid, any of these guys get hurt, that's a good silver lining there too. And I believe actually, let me see if I can pull this up here. Fowler actually mentioned the cornerback situation a little bit in his article. Fowler says, the Chiefs cornerback room is one to watch entering the deadline. Free agent addition Christian Fulton is a healthy scratch. Could they find a way out of his 2-year, $20 million deal? Rookie Noah Williams is emerging, and fourth-year player Joshua Williams could have trade value. So, I mean, if Fowler's saying it, that means this could be something. Could be something potential there. I don't know, but very interesting. One of the weird mysteries of this year for the Chiefs was the Christian Fulton whole thing. So
yeah, and just to throw it in there, if they are going to trade a corner, it needs to be Joshua Williams first and foremost, because he doesn't have a real role on this defense right now. Like, he hasn't been playing nearly enough. Jalen Watson's clearly that guy that's taken that role. Jalen Watson's been awesome this season. If the Chiefs can if the Chiefs can extend Jalen Watson on a short-term deal that's not insane, like, they could get him on a 2-3 year deal that's worth like $6-7 million a year, I would welcome that gladly, because I think he's that good. You make that happen every time. I don't know if the market will be a little more rich for him out there, and if so, then hey man, best of luck to you and thank you for the 4 years. But yeah, Joshua Williams has to be at the top of that market. I don't even know. At this point, I wouldn't even care what you got in return. If you got a 6th or 7th round pick for him, to me, that's a win, because, like I said, he's not really playing a real role, and maybe that incentivizes the Chiefs to get Fulton, kind of going. You know what I mean? Because there's one less body to worry about in that DB room. And but you're right, man. Bringing up Knowles from the practice squad, if you're not mistaken. I mean, that is an indication. I mean, that kind of says stuff out loud without really saying it. And the Chiefs are a very intentional team. They speak with their actions. They don't speak with their words.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and that's one good thing, right? I see people in the chat say agree. In Veach we trust, 100% in Veach we trust, because there's some teams out there who will pay money to a guy and they'll just play him, even though he doesn't fit. He's not right for the squad, but they'll play him just because, hey, we paid him all this money. You're going to play him. We're not like that. He's like, you know what? Actually, this undrafted guy actually looks better than him, or this 4th round pickup looks better than him. We're not going to play him just because we paid him. And that's something you have to love with our squad. You have to love that.
And that's the thing, though, is we haven't even seen Fulton play yet, so we don't even know if he is that guy that's not good enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's true. Go for Casey forever. I'm sure other teams are seeing Fulton not playing in with this contract. Yeah, I mean, sure, but some teams need cornerbacks. You watch some of these gameplays, man, like Dallas's defense, the Jets' defense, the Commanders' defense. Some of these teams need secondary help, big time. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out the best clips from Chief Concerns. And if you prefer to listen to the show, subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.